Welcome to Membership Voice. I'm Kero O'Shea, the coordinator of The Voice and host for this evening's webinar. A very special welcome to tonight's presenter, past District Governor Liz Courtney. Welcome, Liz.
Thank you, Kero. It's lovely to be here tonight. Thank you.
Fantastic. I do want to take a moment to respectfully acknowledge the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm presenting tonight's webinar. I acknowledge the strength of their continuing culture and offer my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Now, for tonight's presentation, one I'm particularly excited about, building new clubs through partnerships, strengthening Rotary through those partnerships, to be presented by past District Governor Liz Courtney. Liz Courtney is a remarkable Rotarian who's made a massive contribution to the ongoing success of Rotary through multiple roles at club, district, zone and global level. The words about Liz that really seem to bring all that together, really resonate with me, are that she describes herself as being a connector going between all levels of Rotary to communicate needs and find resources to help Rotarians. On that, I'm going to hand over to past District Governor Liz for what I'm sure is going to be a fascinating presentation. Over to you, please, Liz.
Thank you, Kero. Well, hello. So tēnā koutou katoa, and hello fellow Rotarians and guests. I am Liz Courtney and a Rotarian from Christchurch, New Zealand. Tonight I'll focus on two projects, the Rotary Community Breast Milk Bank and the Rotary Peace, Remembrance and Community Forest Park. Quite a mouthful, I know, but these two projects are great examples of building partnerships that work. So I'll just give a little bit of an overview as to the milk bank. The World Health Organization says that human donor milk is the next best thing for babies after its own mother's milk, and states that human milk banks should be made available everywhere. Why is the milk bank important in our community? First, we need to understand why breast milk is what we call liquid gold. The benefits are huge. It protects against sudden infant syndrome, diabetes, allergic diseases, and chronic gut illnesses. It protects babies from chest, ear, and bladder infections because the immune factors in the milk and ongoing support for the immune system. Some women have challenges in establishing their milk supply, so donor milk gives them time without introducing powdered milk. And some women cannot breastfeed due to illness or operations or through some medication that they might be taking. So why am I so passionate about this project? I helped start it. Back in 2015, when I was a district governor, Yvonne Hiskamula, a Rotarian and midwife, answered my call for a project that would attract women to Rotary and be far-reaching in the community. As a woman, I was fully aware that the reason we were finding it hard is that Rotarians hadn't given much thought to maternal and child health projects in the district for some years. They hadn't asked women, what do you want to do? Sorry, I'll just go back there. I've slipped up a bit. Yeah, what do you really want to do? So one of our board members specifically joined Rotary to be more involved in this project. And I'm continually asked by clubs, well, how do we attract women? Just ask. At the age of 26, I had 5 children under 5.5. And the reason for that was the last 3 were triplets. After 2 lovely boys, I really wanted a daughter and I just wished too hard and got 3. A daunting and unique experience. I wanted to be able to breastfeed these 3 babies as I had my boys. And I had learned early on about the importance of breast milk, the experience of bonding with your babies, and the great benefit of close human touch. It's so very basic to the well-being of both the mother and baby relationship and is something not to be dismissed lightly. That is why this project is something that pulled at me emotionally. It's all about connection. The photo on the left is our official milk bank photo, funnily enough, taken by a photographer going under the name Milk. She is the daughter of one of our trustees, and this photo goes out on our thank you notes inside all the donor kits. So how did we get this project started? It took us 4 years of research and development and talking with the DHB to convince them that Rotary wanted to start and head this free community-based service in the Christchurch area. They couldn't understand why we wanted to do it for free. We had to explain to the DHB, that's the District Health Board, what Rotary was all about, our mission, our values, and a strategic plan before they would even take us seriously. We had to explain to the DHB what Rotary was about. Well, we needed them to be on the same page as they were the key to us using their neonatal facilities to pasteurise our milk, which we did in the first 18 months. 4 clubs came in to support us financially, with another joining us as we finally opened our doors at St George's Private Hospital in June 2019 after 4 years of work. Every year, we need to raise $30,000 to keep it running, and we are most grateful to those clubs, trusts, and donations we receive. It can be a struggle. Many of the recipients who come in to collect the milk are the husbands, partners, or grandparents once the initial meeting with the mother has taken place. This is how the whole family becomes involved in the process over the 6-week period allowed while the mother's own milk is being established. And just note that wonderful yellow little container there with the Rotary Breast Milk Bank and Rotary all over it. Since 2019, we have helped 1,300 babies and mothers. Imagine how many families, men and women, who now know our Rotary symbol and that we have helped them. We've had over 70 plus women donate their milk for pasteurising and have over 50 volunteers who help run the now 3 hours per day, 5 days a week service. We run regular education for all our volunteers and donors and follow the World Health Organization guidelines on pasteurisation. We have trained 5 people, both men and women, to do the scientific pasteurising process, which takes 6 hours to complete, and we recycle our bottles. The board and trustees include 2 nurses and midwives, an obstetrician gynecologist, a paediatrician, a microbiologist, an accountant, a secretary, and me. The board and trustees include we've already read that. This partnership with the St George's Hospital is successful because we have worked with each other for over 3 years and have established a good relationship with the CEO and the staff. The hospital supports us by providing 3 well-equipped rooms within the hospital next to the maternity unit. One of the hospital trustees donated an $80,000 pasteuriser for us so that we didn't have to rely on the Christchurch neonatal unit providing their pasteurising unit and charging us to use this service. It cost us a lot of money. St George's also pay for our technical computer support, phones and electricity. And as a result, we provide the maternity unit with breast milk. This benefits the hospital as they can say they provide a full maternity service, including human milk, giving them the gold standard in community care. They need us and we need them. With SteriFed having supplied the pasteuriser, we have been promoted in their worldwide newsletter, a distribution of over 15,000. We are the only community-based milk bank in the Southern Hemisphere, and all the others are based in neonatal units or are laboratory-based. I'm extremely proud of Yvonne, who is in this picture in our pasteurising room, and our wonderfully dedicated team. This has been a long yet rewarding journey, and we know we are successful with this project. Now that we have a permanent home within the hospital, we are well known, and this is the time to begin looking at a cause-based Rotary Club. We have the cause, maternal and child health. We have a professional group who volunteer their time. We've established a wide group who know who we are through social media presence and Rotary information, which is in every kit provided to donors and recipients. The Rotary logo is on our bright yellow chili bags and on signage around the hospital. So now I'm going to talk about our next project. The next project focuses on the environment, which of course is our new area of focus. Tree planting and creating green spaces and communities has been part of the DNA of the Rotary organisation since it began in Chicago over nearly, 117 years ago. This tradition has been particularly strong in New Zealand. Over 2 years ago, I was approached by the Rotary Public Image Coordinator as the I'm getting my words twisted here, as the RPIC by the Volunteers New Zealand group in Christchurch to help promote and be involved in representing Rotary's interests. Working alongside this group and the Christchurch City Council has been an interesting and rewarding experience. The Rotary Peace, Remembrance, Community and Forest Park was born and out of a major disaster. The 2011 earthquakes, which devastated large tracts of land and displaced large parts of the Christchurch population. This area is known as the Dallington Loop and has the Avon River running alongside it. In fact, I'll just go back, if I may. No, I won't. I will leave that. The City Council designated this area to be known as the Green Spine due to its ecological significance. In 2021, the centenary was for Rotary in New Zealand, and as part of celebrations, the Wellington Rotary Club applied to Te Uru Rakau for funding to support the aims of the centenary project, and was successful in getting to plant 200,000 native plants over 2 seasons in Wellington and in Auckland. The Rotary Peace, Remembrance and Community Forest Trust was set up to administer the grant. The trust funds up to 45% of the cost, and then the others come in alongside with their donations. Conservation New Zealand is the trust and they act as the project managers. So now what I am going to do is play the slide that I have here.
This is the land where I grew up. This is where I had all the happiest times. I mean, it's just full of so many memories. The house split in half after the first earthquake. My father had added a beautiful big room on and it just fell off because it wasn't very well attached to the rest of the original house, which is a shame.
About 10 or 11 years ago we had the big Christchurch earthquakes.
Thousands of homes were knocked down here, never to be built again.
Our community really felt strongly that we didn't want houses or other kind of infrastructure here.
An area where we're going to plant trees and have sort of a living reserve.
Across the entire site, we're talking about 42,000 trees.
Gosh, that's a lot, isn't it? Well, how far have we got so far?
And I think we're looking at about 12,000. We've been sort of sneakily getting some trees in the ground when you haven't been watching.
Okay. Well done, you guys.
This is a really exciting partnership. Christchurch City Council, they're propagating and growing all the trees, and Rotary are helping us with the funding. Getting 42,000 trees in the ground is a big deal.
We get to see what happens when you undo an urban environment and then let the trees come back and let the birds come back.
When Europeans first arrived, everything was indigenous. All the birds, all the fish, all the vegetation. But if you fast forward 150 years to where we are now, only 0.5% is indigenous.
Our biodiversity is at risk. We are creating an environment whereby these bird species and insects may flourish.
I mean, we're just so happy that it's going to be full of trees, not houses. I mean, I don't think I'll see it in my lifetime, but it will grow and the whole city can enjoy it.
Well, I'm so privileged and fortunate to be involved in this project. In generations to come, there's going to be this fantastic forest.
I mean, it's pretty awesome.
So as you can see, we actually made quite an interesting day of it out there with a lot of Rotary clubs who joined us on the day. And in fact, we ended up planting 2,500 trees in 90 minutes. And it's really lovely to think that now those 40 parcels of land where houses once stood and still have lemon trees and other fruiting plants and established trees on them that remain as part of the whole scene. We've now tripled that planting with subsequent community planting days. And this is a project that will have lasting Rotary legacy in our city. We continue to have ongoing planting days each month, although COVID restrictions and lockdowns have interrupted over this last year. But during those periods when we could come together, it has been the one project that many can be involved in as we work outside and we can social distance. It gave us the opportunity to socialise and to get our hands dirty when so many projects have been cancelled or postponed. And it was an opportunity to talk to others and feel we still were able to make a difference. Everyone got involved in the planting. The community, Rotarians, the volunteer community, locals, children, families. The benefits of this project are huge. Rotary's been given visibility in the local community and on social media by working alongside the Conservation Volunteers New Zealand. It has also given Rotary other small projects. For example, we were involved in a recent beach cleanup with them, the Papanui Bush renewal, and the highlighted other planting opportunities that we can work on together in Christchurch. It has shown the public that Rotary is not only made up of men, but women and families. This is the cause for this is a basis for a cause-based Rotary group to emerge, which especially interests younger and more energetic Rotarians. And an emerging group of Rotaractors in the city are also very interested in joining us. It also gives working members the opportunity to volunteer on a project over a weekend, which at times is missing in our club calendars. It keeps them engaged. We are often a forgotten group, the working people. And as RI President Sheikha Mehta said, offering new club models is the way of the future, giving people new flexible options, cause-based, passport and satellite models to accommodate people's working life. We need to look at Rotary to fit your lifestyle, to meet these needs. Therefore, the steps we need to ensure that to keep in mind are look for partnerships with organisations who share the same goal and vision and ethos as Rotary. Listen and ask people who are expressing an interest in Rotary, well, what would you like to do? Do your research and develop an action plan. If we are truly invested in diversity, seek out women, connect with different cultural groups, look at businesses in your local areas. And when partnering, agree on an MOU so you are clear about the expectations. Look at the sustainability of the project so you understand the long-term effect and consequences. And promote it. Don't hide the good work Rotary and your partnership has or is achieving together. Because it is our offer of hands-on service, personal growth, leadership development, and lifelong friendships that create purpose and passion. So let's create partnerships that grow Rotary, not just in members, but in ourselves. And don't forget to ask, what can we do to help you? So thank you.
Thank you, Liz. That was brilliant. I was expecting a really top-notch presentation and you've delivered in spades. Thank you. Right, remember everyone, we need questions here. Jan, did you have a question there? Was it a comment? Okay. Well,
No, it was just a comment. Thank you.
Okay.
No, well done, Liz. It's, you had a really good description of the projects that you've been supporting in Christchurch.
Thanks, Jan.
We do have some questions, though, as foreshadowed here, Liz. One of those is really about, I think, a matter of scale. We've got an amazing network in Zone 8 through our districts and clubs and the extra network that is always there, but we tend to underplay it a little bit. That's our Rotary officers network. How can we utilise that network to develop more and perhaps more far-reaching projects like this that could help us develop more clubs? So I suppose a couple of things there.
Well, one of the things very early on with the breast milk bank was I actually was in Perth visiting my daughter, your home city, Kero, and we had made contact before we left with one of the leading medical teams at, I think it's your King Edward Hospital, their children's hospital, and you already have a very well-established milk bank there. Now, that's the sort of partnership that I was interested in finding out about. Some of the issues, the challenges, the highs, the lows, how did they go about it? And I know that Rotary in your part of the world was very, one of the instigators of that project, which has now been taken over completely by the hospital. So I think that from that point of view, we perhaps need to think and go back again, put our Rotary name out there and find out if we can still grow other things around those types of large projects that we are doing, and think, well, how does that fit into our areas of focus? How can we look at what the people need in those areas so that we can build clubs onto them? I think, we've got to keep looking at how can we build those clubs onto those partnerships.
So it's really a matter of being imaginative. So we look at what's already there and see what value adds we can put in and build.
Absolutely.
And build Rotary organisations around those. Fantastic. Deb, did you have a question there?
Yeah, I was just going to say to Liz, the other partnership that you've been building is the Ray White one, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it is.
I mean, it's completely different to the two that you've talked about, and maybe not as big on a national level, but it's still a good partnership. Do you want to?
It is. Well, yes, I can very happily talk. It's a Halloween event. It's a fun, family-free event, and it's a quick-fire thing. We do it at the end of the day, as close to the 30th of October as we can, and we work with Ray White Real Estate. Now, they wanted to do something to engage the local community. And so we decided that we would hold it's a treasure hunt around each of the stations. We have 10 of them around a local park, and we have prizes at the end of it. The children have to fill out a form as they go, and the wonderful costumes and the dressing up and the opportunity for families to have a safe place to bring their children to experience some fun. It's just wonderful. It's a lovely thing. And yes, we do want to continue to build on that. Unfortunately, last year we had to do almost like a virtual one, but that was just another way of doing it. It's another way of thinking, well, okay, we still want to do it. And the families were so grateful that they were still able to bring their young children out, even though we were social distancing. It was still another delightful thing to do. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Liz. Now, I'd just like to, because we did have a few people come in after the briefing, the way we'd like to handle questions, please, is if you've got a question, fire something into the chat line about it, just a couple of words about your question, and because I do want to make sure that no one misses out. Now, I'm thinking that, where are we? I think past Governor Elaine is next in the queue with a question.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, Elaine.
Just wondering, with your milk bank project, since that's been kind of running, have you had anyone actually come into Rotary as a result of that?
Yes, we have. We've had 2 people to date who have come in, but this is something that we really are wanting to now really build on, because we have not had a club as such for people to be able to come in all from around the city, but we now do with our Passport Club. This is one way of engaging a lot more people, because we service a very wide area all around Canterbury. So that's one thing. And also they're young people, they have families, etc. So we do need to actually make sure that we have something for them. And that's why I said I think we need a cause-based one, something around families and children that we can say, here's something for you that you might quite enjoy the camaraderie of, the friendship of around that. And it will also perhaps have some sort of medical child-based emphasis on it. It is something that I'm looking into, Elaine. But we've had other Rotarians who have joined because they've volunteered and they've come on and been part of, like one of them specifically joined Rotary so she could actually be part of our board. So there we are. Good one. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Elaine.
We actually have a parents and young babies, young children's cause-based Rotary Club in Perth that's just is forming up at the moment.
Yeah.
Certainly marvellous potential for that in a lot of communities, but I think part of that comes back to that pricing model stuff that we were talking about before. So that might be a good time for that. We want to get older people back into Rotary. We want to get lots more young people in, and they're passionate about causes like the trees, the babies and whatever. Are our pricing arrangements really always conducive to creating those clubs, Liz?
Well, I certainly feel as though we have to give people a lot of options. And yes, there's room for a traditional club that meets the needs of those people. But we have to be realistic about it. Where usually two parents are working, they're time poor. They need to be able to whip in and out of a volunteer opportunity. And so I think that, looking at new-based models, for example, you were at our passport charter the other night where people just meet. They don't have a fixed abode. They can be quite portable around the city. They just have a drink, or somebody brings some home baking like they do in our Rolleston Club, sit down and talk about it. It means they don't have the overheads. They don't have the meal cost. They don't have the venue cost. And I think that that's definitely has been maybe one thing that puts a lot of people off, not just younger people. There are a lot of people. To be honest, I can't stand going to that traditional meeting all the time. Lovely to have some of it, but I have always rebelled against it inside for years. And the only thing that's kept me really in Rotary has been all the wonderful people that I meet.
I think, Johnny Dryden, do you still have a question there? You had your hand up.
Yeah, I do actually. I put it in the chat box. I thought I better be a good boy, Kiro. Typical of the media, doing everything back to front, eh? First off, Liz, what a fantastic... And I've seen you do a lot of presentations. And 993 as a membership chair, I'm really hot on the gender imbalance. We've got some clubs that have got a really major gender imbalance. Now, I've got to present a 60-minute presentation at District Assembly at the end of April for 9930. I was wondering whether I could touch base with you after tonight and get you to record a 5-minute video about, because it would be good, to come from a woman about the gender imbalance, and it would be good to come from somebody in New Zealand, no disrespect to our Australian neighbours that are on the call tonight, if that's possible, please, Liz.
Yep, I'm very happy to do that, Johnny. I'm very happy indeed. Yep, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Kira.
You get in touch.
I will do.
Yeah.
I think that's a marvellous topic to progress, because there are so many reasons for those gender imbalances, and sometimes it is just essentially bad behaviour as part of it, but other times it's, if you like, an inability to really attract the right people to sort of get that process going. So all the very best with that. That's a critically important project. Liz, you've put a lot of thought into this. I'm guessing that maybe not all partnerships are really going to be good for us, and I'm not looking to exclude by definition, but what should we be looking for in a partnership that will help us grow Rotary?
Well, as I think I said in the summary, I think you've got to make sure that they have the same type of values that we share, and that they absolutely understand what Rotary is about. And if not, you have to sit them down like we had to do with the District Health Board people and absolutely tell them what we do, because that's critically important to being able to, number one, work together. I'm actually working on another project at the moment, which is to do with the blind low vision group. And, that's, we both have that same ethos. You want to help people, you want to make their lives more enriched and better. You want to make sure that you can help a wide, diverse group of people, I think, is really the big thing that we need to look at, not just maybe one small group. We are trying to make sure that we can meet the needs of the community. Do your research. I think that's really one of the things why it took us so long to get the milk bank up and running, was we had lots of enthusiasm, but I had to make sure that we had a team together who had the right skills to be able to do that, and the right information, because it was to do with health. We had to be very careful around policies and procedures, and we still got lots of those that we have to deal with all the time in that health sector. So it's a tricky area, but it's well worth the effort.
So if I could just summarise that, thanks, Liz, that it's important to plan, to sort of work it out, and to work better with a team than just an individual sort of flying heroically.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. We all have our own skills to bring, and you need to make sure that you work as a team with that one, very much so. Yep, very much so.
Liz, one of the things that I was reminded recently by one of our quite passionate district membership chairs in Australia was that it's important to look back over these things, not just at all of the things that went well to make for the success, but to look at and to learn from, for others to learn from, the things that maybe didn't go so well. So were there anything from your experience with these two projects, for example, that maybe we could learn from that didn't perhaps go so well?
One of the things I think with the Dallington route, the park project, was getting to know the players very early on. That I think was their communication with us. I don't think was perhaps quite as clear as it should have been. I had to really go through an awful lot of hoops to get the whole history of how everything came about, who the players were, how we could actually make this into a very strong partnership, which it is now, I would have to say. We've now formed a very good relationship with Conservation Volunteers New Zealand. I can't say the same about the council, however. The council wanted to take over everything, and that to me was very detrimental to the project, because it's not what either of the Volunteers New Zealand or Rotary wanted. We wanted to work with them. We didn't want them to take over the project. That was a challenge. And also they were about to go and put up some sign where Rotary wasn't even mentioned. So I got them to take it down and said, no, we're not using that. I got them to make sure that they ran things past me all the time so that we had complete Rotary recognition in that. And I was always supported by the Volunteers Conservation Group in that. I thank them very much, but that was a challenge. I don't think some people in the council have the same sort of attitude that we do. We want to help the community. We're wanting the same recognition. Some people in those positions want their own end goals, which are personal. And that's just something to remember. Know your players.
So that leads into my next question, and I have to say that from your explanation there, go Liz, great work. But interestingly, one of the things that's been, if you like, become a bit of a talking point over the last month or so, since Andy Rajapaksi wrote an interesting story about leadership in Rotary on the Move, is that leadership has quite rightly come into focus, and there's been a bit of talk about that. So What I think you've just explained is that there was some great leadership on the Rotary side of that project in terms of shaping things in our favour. But more generally, how important and why is good leadership important in developing these partnerships? Why is good Rotary leadership important?
Well, I think Rotary's taught me to be, hopefully, a reasonably good leader. I think from the point of view of being a very good listener, I think that's number one. You also sometimes have to go against popular demands on you and look at the governance role around how that's going to be played out in the future, the consequences of your actions, not only personally, but for Rotary as a whole. I think that's very important. Bringing other people along with you is incredibly essential to making a partnership work. So from those things, I think leadership is about listening. It's about learning how to deal with conflict, another very important one. It's about forming a team and making sure that you know that team pretty well so that you can tap into their skills and talents, and to make sure that sometimes you have to make the hard decisions and take that on the chin and wear it, run with it, and because you might have that bigger picture that the others may not. So I just sort of think sometimes that's what leadership is to me. And enjoy it, for God's sake, along the way. You know, you do meet all these different wonderful people.
We in Rotary have made a big deal about advancing the cause of Rotaract from being a project to being a partnership. What's the opportunity for Rotaract, for example, to get involved in and to grow through projects like this, partnerships like this?
Oh, it's endless, Kiro. It's endless. And we are trying to get our Rotary, well, we haven't actually got a Rotaract club in our district at the moment, and we're in the middle of forming one. And they are hungry for projects to work with us on. And I'm sure that many of you in your districts, if you've got Rotaract clubs, they are a great source of fabulous skills. They shouldn't be used from a workhorse perspective. They should be working alongside us. They can teach us wonderful things, and we can also teach them. Working in partnership with younger people energises us, I think, too, and it gives us a fresh perspective to be able to look at something quite differently, as we should be doing. I always think that I'm a lifelong learner. I learn something new every day. You never ever say that you've learned everything or you know everything. And if you're talking to Rotaractors or young people, they certainly bring you down to ground level pretty jolly quickly. So I think that if you can work with them, gain their ideas, give them the opportunities, we've got that. We can be the connectors for them, bring them into Rotary, bring them in to work alongside us. That to me is the ideal, really.
Liz, what do we need to change, maybe in just some parts of Rotary, to make these partnerships more effective? What sort of things do we need to change?
I think we need to come at it with a very open mind. I unfortunately think that many Rotarians perhaps have become very comfortable in their world and very inward looking. We need to look outwards. And I think if we don't look outwards, we are going to fail. We are going to continue to dwindle. And I think that we're going to have to latch on to those of us who are courageous enough to actually forge the way forward for change. If we don't do that, then I think Rotary will die. And I took a wonderful photo, funnily enough, at the Halloween thing, Deb, where I had set up a display with a skeleton, and he was sitting on top of a box, and somebody had thrown down their Rotary cap. So I put the cap on, and I said, now look here, people, this is what Rotary's going to look like if we don't change. I wish I'd actually put that in there too. So it was but it's just a great analogy. But we will if we don't. I know change is that awful. It's almost like a 4-letter word in our vocabulary. But adapt. You know, we do have to be outward and take on those adaptations, because I think we will just die. We'll just fizzle away. You know, we've got to be relevant. Why do what we're doing? And why let all this wonderful work that Rotary's done in the last 117 years and 100 years in New Zealand, if we can't keep moving with the times? You know, if we don't move with the times, where are we left?
Well, when you consider all of the social issues the world is confronting at the moment, this is a little speech on my part, social issues the world is confronting at the moment and the good that Rotary brings to the world, it just seems a shame not to be able to adapt ourselves to the requirements of a new world. That's, yeah.
Absolutely. And I would have to say this is definitely something, Johnny, for women. Women are very good at multitasking. It's one of the things that we were designed to do because of our biology with children, families, and work. And I think that that's a huge talent and skill that we can bring to Rotary. And if we're not going to attract women into Rotary, we've only got about 27% in New Zealand, and that's not good enough. My own district is somewhere around 23, which is the worst in the zone. And so that's the reason why I continually do say, what are we doing to attract women? What can we do for them? We have to adapt.
We do, and I think Johnny Dryden's got another question for you.
Okay, Johnny.
Sorry, I just wanted to add, Liz, I've worked in the radio industry for about the last 25 years, and I've had two women that have hugely impacted me in the industry. One of them is Joan Withers when she went to go and run the radio network back in the mid-90s. And I remember I was working out of the Hamilton office, and it was a stale and pale brigade of people, you know, that worked there. And I didn't view Joan that way when she walked in. Do you know, every other time after that, she made a bee to come and see me and to ask me how work was going. Now, I was just on the floor as a sales and marketing person and doing on-air part-time, but she made a bee to come and see me every time because obviously I had recognised her and respected her for her qualities. Now, I grew so much in that 18 months that I was there, and she was supervising the ship from Auckland. And I think we undervalue, and I've got to be honest, I'm a bit disappointed in our own district because we've only had two women as district governors in recent times, and I'm sure there's been other fantastic women out there that could have led 9930. So, and I take my hat off to another woman on this call tonight, Elaine Mead. I mean to say, Elaine and I have only just touched base through membership, and I love our interaction that we have between District 9910 and 30. So you know, we underestimate the power of having women in critical positions to help us move forward, and they break down barriers, and I think a lot of it's got to do with motherhood, as to how and why they break down barriers, and I'm an autistic, and I've got autistic children, so I'm well aware of how parenting works, because it's not a straightforward parenting position to be in, but just again, love the woman that I've met in Rotary, just absolutely love it. Sheena's another one that's on the call today. Work with her quite closely at membership and public image in 9930. So way to you go, Kero.
Well, thank you for your wonderful support. That's wonderful, Johnny. Thank you. Most appreciated. I know Elaine and Sheena. Yeah. So, I think Johnny's given us a fabulous example. Multitask us.
Now, there's a statistic that you may not be aware of because it was based on my time, 4 years as a district membership chair at District 9465, during which time I tracked a whole lot of things. And one of those was that we had about 22%, where 22% of our membership was women, but they occupied 40% of the key jobs. So if you ever wanted to sort of see a group of people punching way above their weight, it was right there, and I've never forgotten that. And I think that even though the actual percentages might vary a bit, you'd find the trend would be very, very similar. And there are a bunch of reasons for that. and that we can only benefit by improving our gender diversity, our overall diversity, including our gender mix. Absolutely.
I'll never forget, Kiro, Gary Huang was the world president when I was the district governor. And his mantra was, go and ask your wives and partners to join. They have got loads more friends because they're women. They're great connectors. And I thought, he's actually got a very good point.
He has. Now, Liz, I was just about to ask you that question we discussed earlier on, and Deb's jumped in with a last-minute question. So over to you, Deb.
With our new passport club, you're just talking about the number of women. It's interesting, and it seems to be a bit of a trend with new clubs. There's a much higher percentage of women, and our new club is a good example of that. There's only 4-5 men out of our 21. And everybody goes, well, why is that? Because it seems to be a trend, and I don't know whether it's we've got the children off our hands, we're actively looking for something more in the community. I don't know what it is, and maybe the men are still too busy in their I don't know, guys. Maybe you can help us with that one.
People are never too busy to do something that they prioritise.
I agree with that, Kiro. I do.
But before I pontificate too much, the time has come. Liz Courtney, why are you a Rotarian?
I could answer that in many ways, couldn't I? First of all, I was asked many years ago by a wonderful old gentleman who came up to me and said, you need to be a Rotarian. And I said, no, I don't. No, my husband's a Rotarian. I don't need to be a Rotarian, just like I'm sure that you've all heard that said before. And he said, no, you really do, because my wife was never able to be one, and she did far more in Rotary than I ever did. And so you've got to be a Rotarian for her. And I said, well, that's one hell of a pickup line. How can I refuse? So I am a Rotarian, mainly because of that story. But the other one was that I did see some opportunities to be able to perhaps help other people, to use some skills that I had in a different type of way, and also to meet other people who I normally wouldn't meet through my work. And I think that was perhaps one of the major things for me, was I felt it would widen my connections and my work, life balance. You always attract like for like, don't you? And I mean, that's part of who we are as humans. But if you're really wanting to learn and grow, I think you have to meet a wide selection of people. And in Rotary, we do have that, from our older members right through to our new ones and younger people that we're dealing with. There's never a day when you don't think, I am not happy about having met you. You always say the opposite, don't you? I'm so pleased that I've met you. So I think that that's certainly part of it for me. It has also given me a huge lot of opportunities to which I've just said yes to. And it's taken me on an amazing journey and a great path. And I think, well, as a person, I've learned heaps of new skills that I would never have done or gained. It's given me massive opportunities to teach others, to learn new things in a different way that I would never have done in my work life. So there we are. There it is in a nutshell.
That's a rather large nutshell.
It is a nutshell.
Well said. Well said. Okay. Let's give Liz a big round of applause for that. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Go, Liz. And keep up
Thanks,
that
everyone.
powerful leadership. That's great. Thank you. Good night to everyone in New Zealand, and good afternoon to everyone in Australia. And
Thank
good morning
you.
Israel.
Thanks, everybody. Lovely to have you here.